I had just overheard a couple of guys at the lakeside lodge talking about my wife, Rachel, who had just stepped into the restroom. Their conversation was anything but respectful, and it instantly put me on edge. Lakeside Lodge wasn't my usual hangout, but Rachel and I had stopped there for a beer after she picked me up from the National Guard Airport in Little Rock. I had just returned from 2 weeks of active duty with the Army Reserves. I'm Captain Elliot Mason, U.S. Army Reserves. 3 years ago, my life looked very different back then. I was 12 years deep into active duty, having served 3 tours in the Middle East. My last deployment changed everything. I came home from that tour not only with a permanent limp, a reminder of the IED blast that had shredded part of my leg, but also with the heartache of escorting my best friend back to American soil. Sergeant First Class Jasper Collins wasn't just a fellow soldier. He had been my best friend since grade school. We'd been through everything together, from troublemaking as kids to facing hell overseas, but Jasper didn't come home alive. That roadside bomb took him away in the blink of an eye, leaving me to carry the weight of his loss. I escorted him back in a silver-colored coffin, the stars and stripes draped across the lid. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. After Jasper's death, I left active duty and transitioned to the reserves, but the scars, physical and emotional, still lingered. Jasper left behind Rachel, his wife, a woman who shared his love for motorcycles, tattoos, and the open road. Rachel and Jasper had been deeply immersed in the biker lifestyle, riding together and living by the code of the brotherhood. While I wasn't as heavily involved in the biker scene, I had my own connection to it. I rode an old '88 chopper, a Frankenstein machine pieced together over 5 years with whatever parts one could find. The heart of the bike was an 1,338 cubic centimeters shovel head engine, reworked to push 1,400 cubic centimeters of raw power. My one tattoo, a soldier urinating on a raghead in a sandbox, adorned my right pectoral, a controversial, albeit darkly humorous reminder of my time in the desert. Jasper made me promise to look after Rachel before he died, and I've done my best to honor that promise. About a year after we laid Jas to rest, Rachel and I got married. It wasn't something I had planned or even considered while Jasper was alive. He was my best friend, and Rachel was his wife. That made her off limits, no questions asked. But after he was gone, it became clear that the best way to protect and care for her was to bring her into my life as my wife. I'd always liked her, but it wasn't until we found ourselves navigating grief together that our bond grew into something more. That brings me back to those 2 drunks at the Lakeside Lodge. They were loudly talking about the biker bitch's new tat, describing it in crass detail. According to them, it was an image of a guy with a lawnmower trimming a chunk out of her crotch hair, starting on the right and cutting toward the left. I was floored. I'd never seen or heard of a tattoo like that. Believe me, when we got home, I was going to find out if what they were saying had any truth to it. We were about 25 miles from England, Arkansas, near the Clinton National Airport. Rachel had picked me up there after my return from Fort Hood, Texas. The airport in our small town wasn't big enough to handle the military jet that brought us back. We decided to stop for a drink before heading home, and Lakeside Lodge, a place I didn't frequent, seemed like a good enough spot to wet our whistles. I looked over at them again, and I recognized Chad gasped as someone in Rachel's real estate office. I wondered what he was doing clear up here. I was still dirty from camping out for 2 weeks in the sand and scrub brush of Central Texas, and had my BTUs on as well, which made identification a little iffy. Plus, the dimly lit bar. When Rachel came back, I said, "Let's hit the road. I want to get home to take a well-deserved shower and sleep in our bed again." Rachel glanced over to the 2 drunks. She suddenly agreed, and quickly turned away from them and headed for the door. Well, that looks suspicious, doesn't it? I thought so too. I drove the rest of the way home to England and just put the car in the garage. I could get my gear out tomorrow. I stripped off in the garage and went to the master bath, naked as the day I was born, and then turned the water on as hot as I could stand it and let it wash away the 2 weeks' accumulation of dirt and grime off of me, and wondered what I was going to do now. When Jas was gone, the brothers and sisters of the club kept an eye on Rachel. But now that she wasn't part of that club any longer, and since I was not a patch holder, there was number 1 to watch over her except me. But who watched over her when I was gone? Now came my problem. Do I jump her bones, or do I just pass out from the relief from being home? I decided on the latter, and I collapsed on the bed nude after my shower and just laid there. Rachel came in and tried to roust me, but I was having none of it, and sleepily begged to be left alone and to let me sleep. Rachel later got undressed, cuddled up to me, and went asleep. I woke up and saw her still asleep beside me. Then I saw it. There was a new tat, and it was the lawnmower. Well, I guess I will ask who gave her the tat while I was gone. It normally takes at least a week for the tattoo to heal, and since I have been gone almost 16 days, it's no wonder that Chad knew about the new tattoo. That night I pounded her for all I was worth, thinking that I would show her what she made me feel. Hey, Elliot, a little easier, okay? You don't have to make it all up in one go. I know you've been gone a while, but ease up a little, okay? I'm sorry, babe, but I wanted you to get something out of it. I'm still on kind of a hair trigger. I'll do better next time. I wanted the last time to be a real eye-opener for her. By the way, Han, what's with the new tat? It's not that I don't think it's cute, but who gave that one to you? Was it Tom again? Tom was the one that had done the artwork on me and on several of Jazz and hers as well. No, I had Julie do it over at Altered. Something like that. I wouldn't trust a man, even Tom, to do, especially since you were going to be gone. I got it right after you left, since I knew that we would be bumping ugly as soon as you got home. I wanted to be over the sore part before you got back. The next day was Monday, and we both were supposed to be at work, so I put off any more digging to see what went on while I was gone. I worked in the IT department of a law firm. I approached my boss, told him that I might have a personal problem, and asked which lawyer was the best for divorces. He recommended Sophia Green. She was the most ruthless against women who had wronged a man. I called her office to make an appointment to see her. I was put right through to her, and she said, "What can I do for you, Elliot? You said this was personal, and since you are a valued member of this firm and just got back from your 2 weeks of reserve duty, I assume it's about a divorce due to adultery." Yeah, kind of, Mrs. Green. There is nothing I can prove. But I did overhear a conversation Saturday night in the Lakeside Lodge Bar and Grill up by the Clinton Airport. 2 guys were talking about my wife, and I gathered that at least one of them had been intimate with my wife while I was gone on this trip. I wanted to discuss fees and options available to me regarding dissolving my marriage. I'll tell you what, I have a client coming in at 9:30, but as soon as he is gone, I'll call you back and we can meet then. My next appointment isn't until 2:15 this afternoon. I take it you will need a good PI too, right? I suppose so, but I really can't afford much here. I'm not made of money. You let me worry about that part, Elliot. You just come in and we'll talk. Okay, Mrs. Green, and thank you. I'll come when you call me. Elliot. It's Sophia, not Mrs. Green. That's my mother-in-law. Not me. Besides, we're co-workers. See you soon. I think I hung up even more confused than when I started this whole day. Why would a senior partner want me to call her by her first name? Maybe I would find out later. I tried to go back to work, then got a call that I had to go fix the new receptionist computer again. I keep telling her that she can't download games on her computer anymore. We had added some software that precluded adding or linking with certain websites. This was one of my ideas, and we had saved a bunch of money on repairs and costly software so far because of the people no longer adding porn and gaming sites on their computers. I finished up with the receptionist, and she got a call that Mrs. Green wanted to see me. I left Haley, the receptionist, with my parting statement. I have had to write this one up. Haley, if we have to come back again for this same problem, I'm not sure that you'll have this job anymore. Read the memo regarding the downloading of software onto our machines. I left walking down the hall to Mrs. Green's office. Rachel Donner was Sophia's PA. She announced me and I went on into Mrs. Green's office. Sophia was an attractive lady about my age, mid-30s, nice figure, and seemed fit. She rose and came around her desk, shook my hand, then we moved to her small conference table. This was a 42-inch round table with 3 chairs around it. She took the one where there was a yellow tablet. I sat opposite her after she was seated. Okay, Elliot, tell me everything about yourself that I can't get from your personnel file. I went back to when I was active duty, giving her most of the highlights until today. She didn't ask any questions until I finished, but she did take a lot of notes right now to this conversation you overheard. Do you remember it word for word or just the highlights? I gave it back to her word for word. I did add that Rachel normally got all her tattoos from Tom at Anchor Tattoo over in Whitehall, but she said that Julie gave her this one, and the only Julie I recall is now up at Altered Images in Little Rock, up near where we were Saturday evening. Now Chad may have seen her getting the tat, but I doubt that Chad is a known womanizer. But as far as I know, he is not into getting any ink. So I take it you think he and Rachel have been intimate while you were gone. They both work at Patterson Realty over on Arch Street, right? Yeah, that's right. There are probably 4 salespeople there, plus Mr. Patterson and a receptionist. But Kyle Patterson isn't always there. He has another office down in Sheridan and one in Whitehall. So he is only there when they close on something, as he is their only broker. He does come into each office at least once a week to see how things are going. Okay, Elliot, here's what we can do. I have an investigator that works for me. He's not expensive and I can roll that expense into my fee as I will pay him directly for right now. Let's let things go along like normal. That means normal relations at home, as much as you will hate to do that. However, I would get tested for STDs very soon, and if anything comes back, then we can considerably speed things up. I don't see any children listed, so I assume you two are childless right now. Let me give you a list of things to look for and get any information to me as soon as you can. One thing to look for is crusty panties that you find before you have relations with her, or afterward for that matter. We'll get your DNA from the STD tests. This will give us some leeway if we can find out whom and how many she is messing with. We will need some blood, saliva, or hair from your wife to compare and eliminate her DNA. It may show up in her crusty panties, but maybe not. I know this is getting a little close to a line you may not want to cross, but it really needs to be done. Also, keep track of when you have relations. Time and date are very important. I will need to talk to you about finances, but that can wait until tomorrow. I'll have Rachel make a mid-morning appointment for you. But most of all, I hope this is all a bit of wasted energy and time. I am truly sorry that you have been forced to come to me for help. With my help, we'll make it through this together. Thank you so much, Mrs. Usofia. You have made my mind rest easier just knowing I can do something that will let me know for sure. I'll see you tomorrow. Mrs. Green had handed me a folded-up piece of paper and I folded it again and put in my rear pocket. I made sure that I left it at work, but I did very thoroughly read it over since I was still in the reserves. I didn't have any pension as yet. I was working toward one, but nothing was set in stone. I would get no pension if I quit the reserves today, so there was no way Rachel could get a part of that. I really hadn't been working as a civilian for that long, so I hadn't been able to build a big nest egg. I had potential if I stayed at the law firm long enough, or if I moved on with a bigger company. So my losses wouldn't be big if I did the divorce thing. The house we lived in was my dad's place that he had given me in his will when he died during my second tour in the sandbox. So that would be free and clear. If you took a total of yearly income, we made about the same. So alimony would be a wash, and there's no child support either. That would mean that we would have to split the small savings in the regular checking account. I did have some money stashed away. A rainy day, but that was in my mom's maiden name in a safe deposit box that I was assignee on. The box wasn't in my name, and I hadn't accessed it since I married Rachel, so she didn't know about it. That was money I had saved and sent home to my folks when I was overseas. In fact, I really don't know how much there was. I would have to find out after this was all over. Mom was still alive, but in a nursing home up in Little Rock. Nursing home, you say? Yeah, I was a late-in-life baby. My mom was 42 when I was born, so she is 75 or maybe 76 now. I'm not really sure. I know her birthday is October 15th, but I'm not sure what year. I could look it up, but I might tip someone off. I know I pay her box rental in cash each year, so there's no trace of that either. That reminds me. I need to check on when that rental is due. I think it's fairly soon. The rest of the day went smoothly. I went to the free clinic, got tested for STDs, and Rachel wasn't home yet. When I got there, I called and got her voicemail that said I'm out showing a property right now. But please call me later or leave me a message. I'll get back with you as soon as I can. And thank you for calling. Okay, that was new. When I usually call her cell, it either goes directly to voicemail with no message other than the canned one, or she answers. I called the office and the receptionist said that Rachel was out showing some properties with Chad. Oh boy, now I have a real problem. I knew that sleazy son of a bitch was hitting on my wife. God damn that bitch. She was reverting back to her old ways before she and Jazz tied the knot. She was a real 304 in the club she was a part of back then. Jazz told her if she wanted him, she had to give up all this whoring around and be only his bitch. I guess a leopard doesn't change its spots forever. Getting rid of her might be easier than I thought. Wait, she isn't a hooker. Hookers get paid for sex. 304S just does it for fun. Anyway, I did talk to one guy at work that had gone through a divorce, and he said that to keep from the bitch, I should say. I pulled a groin muscle and can't do it right now. I thought about that all the way home, and I thought that I could say, I lifted a computer box the wrong way, pulled something, and I would need to see the doc to get it fixed. Hey, great idea. I never would have thought about that, but it could sure work. I started fixing myself some supper at 6:30, as it looked like Rachel wasn't going to be home in time. I had just sat down to eat some macaroni and cheese with Spam when she breezed in the back door. Oh, you couldn't wait for me to get home so we could eat together, huh? Rachel, honey, I called and got your voicemail message and figured you would be late, so I waited as long as I could, then made this. It's still hot, so I can fix you a plate. Not right now. I'm all hot and sweaty. I need a shower before I eat. No problem, sweetie. I'll heat some up for you after your shower. You go clean up and we can eat together, okay? I was trying to be really nice and sweet to her so she could think nothing had changed. Yeah, that'll be okay. See you in a bit. I put my plate in the microwave and went into the bathroom with Rachel to help her shower. As I followed her, she turned and said, "What are you following me for? I don't need your help taking a shower." I got this hangdog look on my face and said that I just missed her so much and wanted to maybe have some shower sex. Not tonight. I'm tired and sweaty. I showed a couple 3 different houses, plus some acreage this afternoon, and after tromping around in all this heat, I am done in. Maybe we can catch up in the morning if you're a good boy and leave me alone tonight. Okay, honey, but I can just scrub your back for you if you want. I said not tonight. Now go heat my supper up. I'll be out in a minute. Yes, dear, I said a little sarcastically and left the room. I did notice her panties on the hamper, and they looked wet. I went into the kitchen, grabbed a plastic baggie, snuck back to the bathroom, took those panties, and bagged them. I then reached into the hamper and took out another pair to put on top. These were crusty too, but I had fresh ones now. I put the baggie in my briefcase and went back in the kitchen to heat up another plate for Rachel, the cheating bitch. Rachel came into the kitchen just about the time that the timer on the microwave dinged. I pulled her plate out, set it in front of her, and asked what she wanted to drink. I need a beer tonight. It's been a bitchin' day, no. Make that a stiff rum and coke. God, I hate tramping around that damn swamp Barger is trying to sell now. I knew Barger's swamp wasn't really a swamp, but it was a lowland area near that pond out on County Road 524. It was a bit like a swamp in that it doesn't drain well after a hard rain. But 2 things didn't add up as near as I could tell. One was, it hadn't rained in like a month up here, and the other was that she didn't have mud on her shoes. Since she wore dress shoes and her legs weren't muddy, there were 2 reasons to think she lied to me. Add the soaked panties to that. And I came up with one cheating skanky 304 as I was putting the dishes in the dishwasher after supper. I bent over, groaned, and slipped to the floor. Rachel came over. "Are you all right, Elliot? What happened? Did you slip in some water?" "No, honey. I lifted a computer box wrong today, and I think I pulled something in my groin. I guess I need to go to the doctor to see if I have a hernia or something. But one thing I know for sure is that it really hurts now, believe it or not. Biker bitches are not normally the most caring or nurturing people on the planet, but I really think that Rachel cared for me some because she genuinely seemed concerned about me and my pain. She helped me up and led me to the couch, while I really hammed it up and limped while crouched over. She ran back into the kitchen and grabbed a plastic bag of ice and a tea towel, then wrapped the bag in the towel and gingerly placed it on my jewels. There, that should help with any swelling. Damn, Elliot. You'd think that as old as you are, you would know how to lift a simple box by now. Jesus. Can't you get one of the younger holes to do that kind of work for you? Baby, I'm the low man on the totem pole at work. I know I've been there 3 years now, but everybody in my section has over 7 years there. I'm just now starting to get some of the respect that should be shown to me. So he's up a bit. Okay, baby, but you're not as young as you used to be. Oh, so I'm a feeble old fart now. Huh. Are you looking for someone newer or younger to replace me? Boy, was that the wrong thing to say. Rachel looked at me almost like I suddenly knew about all her screwing around on me. She got that deer in the headlights look, then stammered out, "Elliot Mason, how could you say that to me? I have been your faithful, loving wife for over 2 years now. I know I was a little wild when I was younger, but first Jazz, then you has loved me so much that I couldn't go back to those ways again. I love you almost as much as I loved Jazz. How could you say that?" Hey, baby, I'm so sorry I said that. I really didn't think that it would be true for 1 minute. I was just kidding around about you telling me I was old or something. I know you're only a year younger than me, so if I'm old, then so are you. I love you, sweetie, more than anything or anybody. Please forgive me. You'd better be sorry for that shit, just for that. No sex for a week. Of course you can't for a while anyway. I'm not sure what kind of punishment that will be for you, but I might just tease you as some punishment. I'm not too sure about that, honey. If I have too much pain and stress in that area, I may do some real damage and have to wait even longer for any real loving Elliot. Honey, do you really think that might happen? I really don't know, babe. I've never had this problem before. I need to see my doctor to see what he recommends. Do you think we maybe should go to after hours? Right now, baby, I think I need to just lie here with this nice ice you brought me and relax. If it gets any worse, I'll let you know and we can go down to the clinic, okay? Robbie, you know I love you and I'd do anything for you. If you think we should wait, then we'll wait. But I want you to go to the doctor's first thing tomorrow and see what's wrong. I don't want you waiting too long and finding out that something really bad is wrong with you. I already lost one good man. I don't want to lose another one. You hear me? Yes, dear. I hear you. This sudden real concern for my welfare has me puzzled. Is she cheating or not? I really don't know. If she and Chad aren't doing the horizontal mambo, then how could he know about the new ink? I guess I will have to wait for the results from Sophia's pie. I tried to sleep in our bed, but I groaned when Rachel snuggled up to me and said I needed to sleep in the spare room. I left our marital bed and cleaned the spare bed off and tried to get some sleep. I think I finally drifted off to sleep around 2 a.m. I vaguely heard my alarm in the other room. Then Rachel came to wake me. I dragged my weary butt out of bed and thought again that we needed a new mattress for that spare bed. That damn thing was pure torture to sleep on. I made it through breakfast and got to work. I met with Sophia, and we had a long talk, and she let me know what I could do for now and what would be needed later. I explained that I had stopped at the free clinic yesterday, and I told her about the groin pull. She laughed at that and said she would have to remember that. I also gave her the panties I had, and she said she would have them tested. I went back to work. Then it was time to go home. Wow. Rachel was home by the time I got home and was puttering around in the kitchen getting ready to fix us some supper. She was pretty handy in the kitchen as well as in the bedroom, so I told her that it was definitely a groin pull and that I had to baby it for about 2 weeks and maybe longer if I tried to do too much too soon. And he did say no sex for at least 2 weeks. I told Rachel that I would take care of her, but I couldn't have her do anything for me. At lunch on Wednesday, I called the bank and asked when my mother's box rent was due. It was coming up next month, so I said I would stop by and pay it for another year at lunchtime tomorrow. This was not the bank that we used, thank God. South things smoothed out for us for a while. At the end of 2 weeks, Sophia had the goods on Rachel and Chad and 2 other guys. One was a biker from their old club, and the other was a friend of Chad's. We had the evidence now, so I turned Sophia loose, and Rachel was served at work along with Chad, his friend, and Mr. Patterson. Maxwell Briggs was finally found after a club meeting, and he was served as well. His wife didn't appreciate him being served, especially after she found out who the correspondent was. I had taken the day off when Rachel was served, and had the locks changed on the house and the shed, and changed the code on the garage doors. I packed up everything of Rachel's shit I could find, put it in boxes or garbage bags, and left it outside on her side of the garage door. I had set up 4 p.m. as the time for her to be served. That was the usual time for Rachel and Chad to get together to do the dirty deed on the couch in Kyle's office each day that Kyle was not in the office. I finished up in time so that I could be outside when they got served. The server was a college kid, some gum-smacking girl that had a ponytail, torn jeans, and a smart mouth. I met her coming out of the Patterson office after she had served Chad and Rachel. Everyone but Maxwell has been served, Mr. Mason. Not to worry, I'll get him too. I know where he hangs out. If not, I'll just catch him at home. I'm sure he won't like that one bit. It's been a pleasure doing business with you, Mr. Mason. Oh, and just so you know, her blouse was inside out when I served her. Mr. Gaspard's fly was still down, and he had his shirt tail hanging out of it. Best of luck, Mr. Mason. It wasn't 2 minutes later that Rachel came rushing out of the office and stopped dead in her tracks when she saw me sitting on the fender of her car. She looked at me, then went back into the office, and I left. There was no fight, no name-calling or anything. I didn't even care to know why. I just figured that she just went back to her old ways again. I swore I would not talk to her again. She signed the papers, and when I saw her with her lawyer at Mrs. Green's office, she didn't speak to me at all when it was all said and done. She just hung her head and never looked me in the eye. Once everything was signed, I did say, I'm going to miss you almost as much as I miss Jazz. Goodbye, Elliot. I hope you have a better life than the one I gave you. I sat there in the chair, stunned, as her words echoed in my head. She really did love me. That much was clear. But I knew myself well enough to know I could never get past what she had done, cheating on me with Chad Gasper. Of all people, Chad was nobody special. He wasn't particularly good-looking, successful, or charming. I mean, Maxwell? Sure, I could understand if it had been Maxwell. He wasn't just a big guy. Word around town was that he was big all over. I could almost rationalize that. But Chad, plain, unremarkable. Chad, that was something I just couldn't wrap my head around. And I guess I never would. Her confession left me in limbo, torn between the love we'd shared and the betrayal I couldn't forgive. It wasn't about the act itself, as much as it was about who she'd chosen and the lies she told to keep it hidden. I wasn't sure what hurt more, her infidelity, the fact that she thought I'd never find out, dear listeners. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.